Staying in Contact. I'm London Mitchell. Regular listeners to this program may remember a discussion about a year and a half ago with author Jennifer Boresz Engelking about her book, Lost Lake Erie. It's a book full of nearly forgotten stories about the lake, arguably the most important resource for Northwest Ohio. Now, for this installment, we are again talking with Jennifer, but this time about a brand new book, The Hidden History of Lake Erie. News stories about the lake include accounts of a possible treasure aboard a sunken ship, a monster, and a day when Niagara Falls was turned off. And of course, many others. I found the book a real page-turner. What is it, Jennifer Boresz Engelking, that so fascinates you about Lake Erie?
Oh gosh, there's so much. I grew up about a street away from Lake Erie. So it really is it's a big part of my childhood. I've always been drawn to it. It's not only my place where I like to go and look for beach glass and just watch like how quickly the water changes when, the weather changes. It can go from being calm on a beautiful summer day, and then you go back later in the day and you have huge roller waves coming in. Um, and then just growing up a street away from where I knew that there had been a shipwreck. I had heard that there was an amusement park that was there, and this was my bike ride path. So I would go ride my bike with my parents as a kid and know that, like, just offshore, there were stories of gold coins washing up for years. And I was a kid who liked to read. I was a kid who was writing already when I was 10 or 11 years old. I have some old stories that I've kept over the years. And it's just always been intriguing to me. It's just, I think it just goes back to just like good storytelling, like the kinds of stories you hear sitting around a campfire about like shipwrecks and things that have happened along the lake, the Great Lakes and Lake Erie. So as a writer and a researcher, I've always been curious to get into those details, like what is fact, what is fiction, and what do people not know about those stories? And that's really what's led me to write the books that I've written so far.
And your latest one really takes us into some real mysteries.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the most intriguing stories in history of Lake Erie has been that story that I mentioned, that I grew up hearing about those gold coins and the G.P. Griffith shipwreck, and I didn't know a lot about it. I wrote about it in my first book, Hidden History of Lake County, and that came out in 2021. So just about, it was last summer. I was getting ready to go to my son's baseball game, and I got a Facebook message from someone saying, I'm a local scuba diver, and I think I found the debris field for the G.P. Griffith. Are you interested? And I said, well, yes, I'm interested. So it turns out he grew up. His grandparents had a house near the site of where the G.P. Griffith sank in 1850. And he kind of knew a little bit about it. Like me, he spent a lot of summers at the lake and just hearing kind of the legend and the story behind it. And he had just gotten certified years later. He had bought his grandparents' house. He had just gotten certified as a scuba diver, and he was out in the water just practicing diving. And he started coming across these big iron nails and things that looked like they were from something. Then he found a key, like a shiny key, and it was broken, and it was a large size. And at first he thought, oh, this must be something that someone threw in. Maybe it was from a craft store like Hobby Lobby. So over the coming weeks, he found more and more, and all these items he has found appear to be from the G.P. Griffith debris field. So amazingly, the story I grew up hearing about, wondering about, in my lifetime, someone has found it and contacted me because he saw my books being sold at the Marino's Hair Design, where we both get our haircut. And we have been working together to research what he's finding and document it. So that's one of the really exciting stories in my book, is he has actually found gold and silver coins with fire damage that predate the Griffith. But I think the most important part is he's finding artifacts from the passengers who were immigrants who traveled from Buffalo. They were headed to Toledo, and who sadly died right off the coast of Willowick in 1850. And this is finally telling us who they were, what did they carry, giving closure to that story. So that's been really exciting.
We don't really think about shipwrecks
Mm-hmm.
in Lake Erie, but you've uncovered more than one.
Yeah, there have been quite a few. The Erie was another big shipwreck, and that was in Dunkirk. And my family and I actually traveled there over the summer. We went to Niagara Falls, and it was interesting to stop and see that site. And I think there's a plaque in both locations, but you just unless you stop to see that plaque, I think most people are there enjoying the lake, and they don't understand like the layers of history that came before. So it is interesting. There are so many shipwrecks that people haven't found. And again, this was the debris field for the GP Griffith. This was not the actual ship that he's finding these items at. And he's working with the authorities, ODNR, Ohio History Connection, and they have actually created a file with all of his findings. But because Lake Erie is so shallow, it really is of the Great Lakes, like the one that can change very, very quickly. And that's resulted in a lot of those shipwrecks.
You hinted at Niagara Falls being much about Lake Erie history, but in the write up about your new book, it talks about turning off Niagara Falls. I have to ask you about that.
Yeah, that was a fascinating story. And I actually have some photos from a library in Niagara Falls. They actually wanted to they felt like there was too much erosion in that area with the falls. So they were actually able to work the way the rocks were and the boulders and shut it off for a short time so that people could come into that area and walk down into Niagara Falls and see what it was like without the falls rushing over it. So that was a really fascinating story. And there was another one that I really loved in sort of the Toledo to Sandusky area, Turtle Island Lighthouse. There was this really sweet story of someone who contacted me and said as a kid he had aunt and uncle who lived on the shoreline and basically set up a treasure hunt for him and his siblings and said, this bottle washed ashore and it has a map in it, and led them on this whole hunt onto the island with clues, and an X marks the spot. And they ended up digging up a little chest with all kinds of gold and silver, not quite authentic, but gold and silver coins and jewels. So that's what's fun about these books, is that it's a lot of the research is from historical libraries and museums and places you would expect it. Also, newspapers.com is so nice to be able to search for these old articles, but some of them are just from people who know that's what I write about. And those can sometimes be the most fascinating because it's a piece of who we are, of families that are living along Lake Erie and how it connects us to the lake.
I am fascinated with the history of our region in northern Ohio and along the lake shore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious that your enthusiasm to research these stories is very, very high. You really enjoy this.
I do. Yeah, I really do. It's like I do think my background in news has helped because I've always been curious. I've always been interested in people and stories and what makes us who we are. And being able to research quickly when I was a reporter has helped me. But I also like having the extra time to like dig into it deeper, and find a possible story and see what I can find. And sometimes it pans out and I find a lot, or I can find relatives who are connected to it. And sometimes I put it aside and I say, okay, this could be something, but I'm going to maybe save that for a different book. Let's wait until I can find out some more details. And yeah, I was at a friend of mine, Deanna Adams, is a local author, and I was actually at her book talk and standing in line to buy a book from her. And I saw a man, he had a Lake Erie shirt on. And I think she mentioned to me, oh, you should talk to him. He has some ties to Lake Erie. So it turns out his family had a grocery store in Lorraine, and they were the grocers to the big ships that had come into that port and needed to get provisions before they headed out again. So he and his wife are the sweetest people, and he has shared all these family photos, his personal experience working there as a teen and young adult. And one of my favorite stories that I learned from meeting with him was how for a while they were the only grocery store, but eventually another one popped up, so they had competition. And he and his cousins would all go to their grandparents' house, which was located on the lake, and they could see the ships coming in. And they knew when the ships got close to the Lorraine Lighthouse that was time to tell their grandpa and their dad, okay, you got to head out there with the little boat and see if you can get the order before the other grocery store. So it was neat to hear how the entire family worked together to help this local business that had a huge impact on Great Lakes shipping.
The book is Hidden History of Lake Erie, and the write-up on Amazon.com says it explores fascinating mysteries beneath Lake Erie's surface, from shipwrecks and gold coins, which we've talked about, to the legendary Lake Erie monster. I don't want you, Jennifer, to give away the book, but I have to ask you, Lake Erie monster, is this like the one from Loch Ness?
It's similar. So, it's all the descriptions that I have come across, and I've researched the Lake Erie monster pretty heavily, especially on going through old archives on newspapers.com. Many of the accounts are very similar, some more colorful and descriptive than others. Some just describe it as you would hear of the Loch Ness monster, like kind of almost like prehistoric, like that long neck and the ripple in the water, and then they see this great long neck stick out, and then it vanishes. Others describe it as having like yellow glowing eyes and sharp teeth. And one account that was a more humorous account during Prohibition said that someone thought that they saw the Lake Erie monster that looked like kegs bobbing in the water. And the reporter asked the local police department, well, what do you think about this? And they said, basically implying that, well, this is during Prohibition, and that maybe somebody who got their hands on some kegs that they shouldn't have. So there are many interesting accounts from a variety of people and ages all along the lake. But I will say the heaviest are in the western basin of Lake Erie.
Really? The western basin?
Yes. It's very intriguing.
It is. I'm going to have to do a deep dive of my own to find out about that.
Get your binoculars out. See what you can see out there.
Again, the book is about hidden stories in Lake Erie, and it's available on Amazon and I would assume other bookstores as well.
Yeah, and anyone who's interested in a signed, personalized copy can also go to my website. That is Jennifer Boresz, BORESZ.com.
All right, it's been a pleasure talking to you. What's next for Jennifer Boresz Engelking?
Well, my mom and I actually co-wrote a book. This is her first book, and this will be my fifth. And we just got our final edits. It's through the same publisher, the History Press and Arcadia Publishing. We just got them yesterday. So we're at the exciting part where we're getting the cover design and doing the edits. But it's called Our Lady of Lourdes National Shrine of Euclid, Ohio.
I've been there.
Have you? Oh,
Yeah.
That's great. It's beautiful. And my mom grew up, my grandparents took her and her grandparents, then she took my brother and I, and then now we go with my kids. So we have a lot of family ties, but it's also going to be their 100th anniversary in the end of May. So we've had 100 years of really fascinating history. And that's coming out March 31st. And then I'm working on potentially another book, getting into some details, of course, about Lake Erie. But I'm gonna wait until that's a secured deal until I announce that one. But I will say it's linked to something that I've already written about, but it would expand upon it much more.
I appreciate it. We'll look forward to it. Thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you so much.
Please stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And that's our program for this week. I'm London Mitchell. Please accept this invitation to join us again for another discussion about our corner of the world, Northwest Ohio, as we continue staying in contact.